We are live and recording. All right. My name is Evan, and you are listening to Left of the Projector. This week, we'll be talking about The Running Man. With me, I have Lemony Fresh Pine and Sully from Dang, We Stole This Podcast. Thank you both for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Me
This is
too.
one of my
I mean,
favorites growing up. Like I watched this movie way too young, and it imprinted stuff into my brain.
this was my first time
Uh,
watching this movie.
Okay. So those are two vastly different
Yeah.
perspectives. Yeah, so this just as a quick snapshot of the movie. So this came out in 1987, and it's based on a Stephen King book, which was written under a pseudonym, Richard Bachman, which came out in the earlier 80s and 82. The movie actually was not very successful. It made only 38 million on a budget of 27 million, so not a big Schwarzenegger hit. Coming in the same year as Predator, which I think is funny. They both came out in the same year. But I also had fond memories of this, and I did kind of mostly read the book, so won't try and bore everyone with book comparisons, but I think it's worth throwing them
Yeah.
in there. So I don't know, as your first time watching this, Sully, what did you
I thought
what
it
did you
was
think?
fun. It was like a fun Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I wasn't like, when I watched it the first time, I didn't like too deep into it. I just enjoyed it.
yeah, there's camp. Like
Yeah.
it was nice and
But I
and
like
a
those
campy
campy
experience.
movies.
Yeah, and a hallmark of like its time period.
hmm
Yeah, back when like the one liner, like Arnold Schwarzenegger one liner is just like completely off the
Yeah.
charts. Like his stupid little I wrote down all these like ridiculous little lines he has, which I think are just
Just the random explosions. Those are my favorite part. I would just like laugh so hard every time there was like a random explosion out of nowhere.
before
Gunfire
you
like popping off on walls and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a few times I noticed when they were shooting, or what Arnold Schwarzenegger was shooting at people, they had like the little explosions that it looked like they were missing the person, but somehow like he still dies. It's like, okay, I guess
He
they
like
just took,
flies across the room.
but he didn't even hit him. He just they like didn't want to shoot it again. Like
My favorite
Right?
part.
It's like he flopped early. It's fine. You know what? Nobody's gonna notice. Nobody's gonna notice. And then like all the like film people, the movie people are just like, did you see that?
Yeah, and the other like one little note I'll mention is that apparently this movie, the person who directed it was Paul Michael Glazer, and he wasn't even. They asked him to make the movie, and he said no, and then they brought in someone else. And 2 weeks in, he got fired for being over budget, and so then they
Oh
came back
no.
and are like, "Oh, hey man, can you actually, really direct this?" And he said, "Fine, I'll do it." And I feel like they just kind of did it very quickly. It's an '80s movie.
When I was reading about it too, like I noticed like they were really, really concerned about making sure that it all fit around Arnold. Like the premise had to be around Arnold and how it would fit him in the character rather than like anywhere close to the book.
Yeah, just as an aside, so the book just before, so let me just sketch out the movie for anyone who hasn't seen this. It's basically about a fascist cop, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, who basically is framed for killing a bunch of civilians in the very first opening scene of this movie in like a futuristic dystopia, totalitarian, capitalist hellscape, basically, not too dissimilar from us now. And so he gets sent to the gulag, or like the prison camp, whatever you want to call, whatever it is. And then he, escapes, and he gets put on this TV show called The Running Man, where a bunch of people try and kill you while you're running away. And that's the complex plot we're dealing with here.
There is a lot of like subtext in that though, like just in that like simple description. You
Totally.
I mean, it starts off with like the fascist police state, moves right into like the prison industrial complex, like right off the bat, and kind of shows you how that's going. And like there was a scene in particular that like jumped out at me, is like the guards gambling, talking about how they won some money watching The Running Man.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of it makes the people active participants in the carnage. So like it kind of builds like a manufactured consent amongst everybody, because Now you get to participate in it. Sans the danger, right? Like you get to maybe possibly make some money to exist in like the hellscape. Like I mean, if you've seen the film, the place is not a pleasant existence. Like they're having food riots. That's it was a food riot that like they frame him for in the first place. So it is kind of getting a little close for comfort. 2017 though, like we missed the deadline for The Running Man as far as the movie's concerned. But I mean, we're close. Like there with the idea that like reality TV, competition shows and things like that, we're inundated with toxic television, toxic reality TV. Sully brought up The Biggest Loser when we were talking about it as like
interesting.
One of those things. It's like the carnage is just as real. Like the damage they're doing to these people, their like mental health and well-being, and all for the goal of hitting a beauty standard that's set on them by society at large, anyways. Right? It's the carnage is real. Like we do that now. It's just not as overtly violent, but we're destroying people. Look at the children of reality TV, and you can kind of see like what that does to somebody. So like we are wrecking people so millions of viewers can watch, and like we have like the hero worship of like the Kardashians and stuff. I really did enjoy, like there were like a lot of predictions that this movie hit like right on the head for what's happening right now at the very least. And I'm excited to go through like every bullet point I have. I wrote a bunch of notes. I'm excited.
Yeah. So like you pointed out, like the opening scene, basically after they kind of course, I feel like all these dystopian movies have sort of like the running, like the little credits or the opening text tell you how terrible, life has become for people. And so presumably this little helicopter ride at the beginning with Arnold on it was meant to kill all of the people to begin with. He just like didn't realize it, which is sort of like kind of funny to me. Like he's playing dumb that he doesn't realize what their goal was, which was to just kill a bunch of civilians.
Yeah.
And then surprised when they're like, hey, like that dude's being insubordinate, so arrest him and then do what we just said to do. But then the state immediately builds the narrative that they build a scapegoat using essentially deep fakes, which pretty cool. Pretty cool that they're talking about that in 1987, and now like we're pretty much there. We're close anyways.
Yeah. One of the other things that I think I was talking about this movie, I think it was on Twitter, and someone else like mentioned Rollerball, which I just recorded last week. But what I was thinking of is that this movie, intentionally or not, probably unintentionally, I feel like what they're going for is that this like totalitarian hellscape is like meant to just be like communism. Like the idea that like this is the bad thing that we don't want to get to, because like they don't have any food. They basically put you into like a prison labor camp, like a gulag. I feel like it's very much oh hey, we're just going to tell you the evils of that, because this is also like peak Cold War, 80, mid 80s. So I don't know.
My first note written down, and Sully's this is Sully's note when we were watching, but the it says the opener was very reminiscent of Red Scare propaganda of the Cold War.
There you go.
Especially when they say like iron, like what was it, Iron Fist or something?
Yep.
And it is like always, it's that Iron Curtain, everything. Joseph Stalin is steel, like it's all that metal. They always make communism sound like brutal, like but it's not like it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I always feel like they always try to make it seem as like it's we're the most brutal people on the planet. It's like nah.
And I feel like they also, I mean, just generally like Arnold Schwarzenegger tropes is like he is always like this military kind of leader, beefed up on steroids. And they have to like have him, get put away so that he could become like the hero that sets them free, like because basically after he gets framed essentially and knocked out, he goes to the prison camp. He's been there for a few months, and then he's like this becomes the, like you were saying, it's like all centered around Arnold's character and himself. So
yeah, he agrees to help escape, right? Because that benefits him to get out of the prison. But as soon as that's done, it's like, get this collar off me. I don't want anything to do with any of this. Even though like both Weiss and Laughlin, right? They're down for the cause. Like they're both principled communists. They're not, like they're talking about constitution and whatnot. But I mean, from my perspective, and considering that like everything that is in this film is happening currently, at least maybe in some aspects, like the baby aspirin version of it in America right now. So they always want to, capitalists always want to blame communism for the things capitalism does, and then expects it to function the same way. So like all the things they ramp up are just them kind of pointing the finger at themselves when they're like, communism bad. Imperialism has done that 10 times over, has existed longer, and has quadrupled 100 times the body count, I'd say. I mean, I have no math to back that up, but I feel it in my bones, my commie bones.
That one of the first like super funny things that I noticed is when they're in the prison camp and they're like planning their escape and they're like sneaking a peek at like the code. Number one, the code is only 5 digits. And they're also just like typing it out right in front of everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, don't you have like a screen guard or something? Like go to the side. They're just like typing in codes right in front of people on this like giant screen with the numbers. I know it's just this.
And they always take over too. People doing that stuff, like they won. That whole group won, and maybe that's why. Maybe they got complacent, because that happens. The people in power, they get complacent, and then all of a sudden you have a mob outside, and you're wondering why the peasants are so angry, and then you get launched through a fucking rocket tube. That rocket luge. Okay, so if that thing were like just 20% safer, I would get tickets. I would get on that. That thing looks so cool. Like if it made my jowls jiggle, like I would pay money to go on that. Like
it's gonna send you into like a ball pit or something at the end.
Yeah, it has to be something fun at the end.
Do you go on roller coasters?
I've been on roller coasters.
Yeah. When
I was a lad. One of them really like fucked me up though. Like it had like a hard turn. Never mind. Sorry, getting off in the weeds. But yeah, like damn. Fuck you, Six Flags.
And the other thing is they had like dog collars that would shock them to go through these little like gates or whatever it is, and that's what they're trying to set it up. And of course, like the one dude goes through and his head gets blown off because
that was my favorite part.
We actually, yeah, okay, so practical effects, it would go such a long way. Like it goes such a long way. I would rather see 1 million latex heads explode off like a obvious like mannequin neck than like any CG that would try to replicate the same effect.
Completely agree.
It's a lost art. And I wish they would bring that back. Like that's one part of like filmmaking that needs to make a comeback is practical effects. I'm okay with like, big set designs and stuff like that's cool. And, if you need to do like the Mandalorian thing where you're in like a big white room or whatever that they just put the whole thing on after the fact, fine, it works. But I like me some practical effects. I like little towns built out in the desert that get abandoned and become folklore.
I just liked how over dramatic it was. Chico!
Yeah.
No! When we were watching it, you slowed it down.
I did. I just
saw brilliant.
0.5 speed, just like it still held up at 0.5 speed. I just want to point out that like even at half speed, perfect. It still held up as like a good effect. It was a good movie. Like I'm glad that this was on the list. I was like, I immediately saw it. I was like, that one.
Yeah, and I think you said it before is that so after they escape, they basically are now with like the underground group that are, like I don't know, you could say they're leftists or whatever, but it's funny to me how they kind of strip them of any kind of actual like ideology, just in like, we don't want this terrible government anymore, you
Mhm.
know? And I'll get to this like when we get towards the end, is I feel like they like teased you with like this little resistance group, and then like they just kind of didn't really do anything, right? I don't know.
Just the big reveal, like or sorry, yeah, I'll save it for
'Cause
the end as well. But yeah, very little agency. Well, the characters themselves had very little. They were there as like sacrificial lambs, kind of just something to galvanize Ben into gaining principles, because throughout the whole, like, he does not want to do anything for anybody the whole time. And right off the bat with Amber, very creepy. Like, well, okay, so first off, right off the bat, working out in lingerie, like that.
Yeah.
You know that like it was written by men for men, like cis straight white men. Like that was who this movie was like. Yeah, and obviously it's Arnold. Is they really big on that like toxic masculinity back in the day. A lot better now. Still garbage conservative lib, but
The dude
at
who
least
wrote this wrote Die Hard. This guy who wrote the screenplay for this also did Die Hard, 48 Hours.
didn't I mention Die Hard when we were watching? I've never seen Die Hard, but like
You've never seen
it
Die
had
Hard?
like
He
no.
I didn't
did
know that one.
Judge Dredd. The guy did. What else did he
Also
do?
haven't seen that.
I think he did Commando. I
Okay.
think. So the guy's like this. Yeah. So to your point of like, that's the movie.
Quite a pedigree.
That's what he's writing.
Yeah. He does have yep, and that's fine. That's his niche. Like, and no hate on that. I actually enjoy these. Again, practical effects, camp. Also, I don't know if this is problematic. I just like hearing Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent. Like, I just like hearing him talk. Like, I don't know. I just, it's like that's really cool. Like, I listen to you say whatever you have to say.
Yeah, we established your crush like throughout the movie. Every time I try to make fun of him, you're like, no.
Cut him some slack.
That was just what he was just what he was, right? He was like this caricature of I don't know, just like a jacked up steroid, because he was on the juice back then. One of the interesting lines, like when he's like in the room with like the resistance fighters, and like he's like debating whether they should take off his collar, because they rightly say like, you were actually the police guy who is causing this. And I feel like that's like the one time in the movie they actually have like any kind of self-reflection on him being just like a cop. Like, ACAB includes this dude, includes Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie. No, it's not a question.
It's definitely a ACAB situation. And so Weiss was definitely like Jewish coded, right? And then Laughlin is a POC. I'm straight up stealing like Sully's ideas, by the way. I'm that guy in the book club that's like, let's discuss the book real quick, getting some coffee, and then like I'm just gonna take your ideas. But it really, like, they were like the sacrificial lambs that actually had skin in the game, right? Outside of him getting sent to prison and being framed, Arnold Schwarzenegger was ready to dip out to Hawaii. He kidnaps that woman in the first like act, right? Taking her, he drags her as a hostage through the fascist security that really has not had a problem, like, shooting first and asking questions later the whole time. So he's making her complicit in it. And, we see later that it doesn't matter if they want to get you, they'll get you, with their use of technology and like falsifying the narrative. But, and I mean, obviously he's framed, but from the moment he finds her, he's being very aggressive, obviously, to scare her. But like, also there's like some like not openly sexual threats, but it's definitely like implied in that first like opening scene with her, and then it goes from that to them like together at the end, and like none of it like follows like actual logic. It was definitely like women written by men, like the subreddit where they describe like triangular boobs and things like, like it's that vibe of one working out lingerie like right off the bat. And she's the only character they really like, the only female character that matters throughout the whole thing, and she does have like very little agency as well.
Yeah, she always has to get kind of get taken care of also too. She's until the end.
And yeah, exactly. And then they like kiss, like, so we'll just cover the romantic part of this right now. They kiss, right? Like at the very end, after all this, like essentially what's trauma bonding after watching not necessarily her friends, but like people he knew get like blown away and like wasted by these state sanctioned killers, which is also like very reminiscent of like the State Department like funding movies currently, like the Marvel franchises and anything by Michael Bay. And you know what I'm talking about, where like, they put in the Patriot porn. So yeah, like Captain Marvel was essentially a United Air Force commercial. So they got to keep all the jets or use the jets and stuff for the movie. They just had to like pop in a pro military like message in the movie, and they did. Like it's essentially an advertisement, a recruiting advertisement for children. Which is
I feel
the Running Man. Like, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say the thing that I was thinking is I feel like they make it seem like Amber has like Stockholm syndrome. Like she's been like,
that's what I said.
Like, she's been traumatized, and I think the scene you're talking about is when he goes to the apartment and he lifts her like like weight machine up and is like
her Bowflex.
Yeah,
her Bowflex.
Yeah, 10 installments of $29.99.
Right.
I remember the Bowflex commercials.
I do too, and I saw that and I was like, did Arnold ever do like some cross promotion with the Bowflex? But I could also like, they could have just, and I checked the dates. What was it? 1986?
87.
Excuse me. No, the movie, but the Bowflex was like 1986.
Commercially available in 1986. Yeah, we went down a whole rabbit hole about this whole Bowflex thing.
Because Arnold was like big into the cut. Like he was the body. I mean, he is. I don't know if he still currently is, but you know what I'm saying. He was a bodybuilder. He was into like the health and fitness lifestyle. Can anybody hear that?
Yes.
No. Well, they also had Jesse Ventura doing that like workout video, and I feel like that was very much like supposed to be like Arnold, because he says some line during it, like one of like Arnold's like go-to lines will like just pump you up or something. I feel like he says it during the little video clip or something.
Oh, where he was like suddenly upside down.
Oh yeah, he's doing. And he was like essentially a white nationalist symbol. Like, well, not like, I mean, he is white, but it was a Captain Freedom, and he's like a big jack dude with
that was his name. I didn't.
Yeah,
Captain
mustache.
Freedom.
Yeah,
they don't say it very often. His name. Yeah, one thing I just, because I wrote this slide down, I thought it was pretty funny, is before he goes to basically kidnap Amber to use her like little travel pass, I guess, like her passport.
Yeah.
He says to the people who are like in the little like the resistance group, he says, all I see are people with like low foreheads who think they can change the world on Dream and Talk. And I thought it was like a funny little like he's like, I feel like that's like a nod to like, oh, you communists think you can like do stuff, but actually it's just a bunch of hooey. It's like the way I like took that line, even though it's kind of like a throwaway line maybe, but for most people
it definitely had the vibe of like telling us that like this is the Orwellian future that awaits communism. But I have like all these predictions that just like match up. So one, the militarized police, right? They're flying helicopters in a city with like big ass machine guns on them, which even the
Probably
cops right
rockets.
now don't do that. Yeah, like rockets and stuff, like the stuff that they have been shooting at the global south, if we're honest, for the last like 30 years. Or longer even.
I'm sorry, Lemony. It's so funny, like listening to you talk about this, and like your background is oil wells.
Is I didn't have any of my art as like easy backgrounds, and I was like, you know what? It kind of fits the vibe. Like it kind of fits the vibe of
I
the
just
movie.
noticed
So I was
that.
like,
I'm sorry, I got everybody off track. I'm sorry. It was
oil
just like so
wells.
funny.
No, but it makes sense. I think it fits. It has like the vibe.
It was just something I just noticed, and then it got me giggling. So I just wanted you guys to know I wasn't giggling at what you were saying.
The fact that we're talking about fascism and
America. I'm like laughing.
Ooh, ha ha ha!
Yeah, right. Global imperialism is great.
I'm over here in Canada, like
imperialist junior.
Well,
no, just as bad. I mean, like it all sucks.
At least
so the militarized police.
Police. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
was another one on your list that basically like the corporations basically and the DOJ are just basically like one the same. Like laws are made by corporations.
Laws are made by corporations, plus like the government has like an active hand in funding like the media that we consume, also controlling the narrative. So like there's the state and capitalists are in bed together to the capitalists don't care that they're making them put on the Running Man. They're all like he states that he's the richest, has all the viewers that he could possibly have. He's topped out and plateaued, so he needs something big. Therefore, he's like, I'm going to get this war criminal, which is a framed war criminal, alleged war criminal. But I mean, they were a cop under the fascist. Yeah, he was a cop under the fascist dictatorship. He didn't know that they were killing entire food protest riots.
Oh, it was okay as long as it wasn't women and children. Like they made that clear in the beginning.
Actually, there's
That's
women and children down there. It was like that was his line, but then immediately, like in the next, like as soon as he escapes the prison, he's like throwing that chick around and like grabbing her real hard and stuff. Is like, you're coming with me, and like he was like catching weird like glances, while she's like working out in her laundry again. This is so dumb. I can't believe that was the thing.
Well,
but and then she gets like Stockholm syndrome, even though like every bad thing that happens to her after that is because of him kidnapping her. But another thing that they predicted was online shopping from home, and he literally was buying a plane ticket to Hawaii from the home computer.
That's true. I didn't think about that one.
There was a few like technology ones. I was like, oh yeah, right on. Like Stephen King kind of like nailed it, or whoever wrote the movie actually, if there changes, because I don't have any. I know it's loosely based on the book, based off of like the Wikipedia.
And they also they briefly show the ICS, which I guess is the TV channel, and I assume you caught that it was Richard Dawson, like basically like the Family Feud guy, and he agreed to do this movie as long as he didn't curse, was apparently his contract.
Oh,
he's like, I'll parody myself as long as I don't have to curse, but I get to kiss at least 5 women.
I really thought he was really good in that. Like his character was the most memorable for me. I really enjoyed his
he has to be like a personable person to like basically be on television watching people die.
Well, like the gold limo was like a really nice touch also to kind of just show like the extra little bit like of ostentatious, right? Like just what took it from like this guy's really famous to like this guy's famous and decadent is that he pulls up in the gold limo wearing like a really nice suit for the time.
He's got like that big ring on his finger too.
Yeah, and everybody wants to like be near him and do the equivalent of like taking a selfie, shake a hand.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there was a lot of branding tied into the idea
Cadre.
that there's he's selling soda. He's got the board game, the home edition of The Running Man, you know, like everybody that participates, again, bringing the audience into it, making them more complicit in the actions that are happening, which is a theme that happens a lot throughout the movie as well, that I noticed, where it's like, get the people involved in watching their, like, you know, their circuses, and they'll forget that there's not so much bread. And that was the whole plot, really, it was just like, we have to distract these people enough from their problems that they don't come finding the people that caused those problems. And
Yeah,
you get people in fighting against their own interests. Essentially, these people are actively engaging in a system that is their detriment, but they're getting prizes. Everybody that participates gets these fabulous gifts, and they get to pick the next stalker that gets to come on, which nice touch. Like, I honestly, like, that is exactly how this show would work. Like, if there was a show like this in real life, it would be exactly like this. The audience picks their favorite. It'd be one part pro wrestling, other part murder snuff film, I guess. That's what it is.
well, they based American Gladiators from this movie. That's where they got the idea,
Okay.
Oh,
which
That,
is
like-
honestly perfect.
yeah, because
I
we were
mentioned,
talking
like,
about we were talking about that, because I felt like in the book it felt more like an Amazing Race kind of thing, but with like somebody almost being killed, and then in the movie it felt more like American Gladiators.
Well, because they had like little arenas of different like kinds of skill. Like, you know, you had like the football, like the hockey thing, and each one, and yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention is too, is you're talking about like the corporations. I think that they joke with them being like, oh, we can't, you know, we have a contract with the military, but we can't get like certain people or whatever it is, because they want to get him on the show, Ben Richards, Arnold's character, and they're like, no, you can't, because, and he, of course, he makes a phone call, and because he's so powerful, he just does it. And yeah,
it was a very, like, the phone call also felt like very, like, peer to peer, more so than like any one side was like over the other. But he's like,
True.
I'm gonna get those ratings for you. It's my show. It's a contact sport. Like, when he's talking to them about, like, oh, the stalker died, it's like, oh, it's a contact sport, you know, like, it's gonna happen eventually. And so I felt like there was very little worry on his end of the government ever, like, stripping him of his position or like moving him. And you know, the state is going to keep stating out there, just, you know, fascist, you know, authoritarian government still happening. Yeah, but it is always weird in telling that every time capitalists write about, like, this is all socialism, and like, some of the stuff wasn't too horrible, but like, other than, yeah, they had the internet. It's fine. Everything's good.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I will say that I think is probably like one of the main departures from the book that I think is different. So they capture him, they bring him in, they're like basically saying, like, if you don't do this, we're gonna like kill your two buddies. Basically, is like the thing. But in the book, it's like he has a son who's dying of like pneumonia, and they don't have medicine because they're extremely poor. And he basically he goes to the studio to try out to do the show. So it's like more of a voluntary thing than it is in here, where he's basically forced, which I think in part of me says, like, it's kind of thin motivation for him to have done it, because he didn't seem to have that much camaraderie with those other two guys, like Weiss and
yeah, it's
right?
like, okay, we're doing each other a favor, we're helping each other get out of here, and then we're going our separate ways. And he kept like wanting to dip out to Hawaii, like a very colonizer fucking like idea. It's like, I'm going to Hawaii. It's like, you put on the shirt, kidnap a woman to like take him.
The best line was when he's like threatening to shoot, like to like puke on him. He's like, you won't even see it on this shirt, because he has like this like hilarious. I thought the one-liners are just like, I was just laughing the whole time.
But with his like
I tried
buddies,
to get a count going, but I couldn't keep them. Like, I was like, oh, did I miss one? I think I missed one, and then like it was like I lost count, but I got up there with the one-liners. Arnold is good at the one-liner. Like, it's just their shtick.
Mhm.
It was a product of his time. I love it.
With his buddies, though, like one thing that I thought of was like they were gonna die anyway. Like I don't like they would have had to live under that system long enough to know that even if he had like saved them, like this, there's no way the state was going to let them go. Like they're not gonna go walk like scot free.
Right. It's kind of like ignorant given the fact that he was literally a police in this police state.
Mm.
And he just like, oh yeah, the TV guy, this powerful dude is going to tell me the truth. Right.
Well, and the leader of the revolution is just like, why don't you take the lead on this? Essentially, like he, it's like, I thought you were leaving, and it's like you just handed over like control of like your military to a cop that literally like months ago was probably bashing heads in for the state.
Yeah,
but
just as long as they're not women and children.
Just like, exactly. A code of honor amongst fascists.
So one note that I saw on IMDb is so right after this, before like they start the Running Man, they have like this very like choreographed dance routine, which apparently was choreographed by Paula Abdul, which I didn't know.
Oh,
Ooh,
which was like a little note that I thought was interesting.
Like now that I think back, it definitely has that vibe. Like you can
I'm sure if like in the 80s watching it, like everyone's like, oh, that I'm sure they knew, but my memory of that is a little fuzzy. But yeah, so it's very it's funny. And the only other female character I think is right before this started the Running Man. It's like a coworker of Amber, and she makes like these very weird comments being like, it's a good thing he didn't like kill you and then rape you, or rape you and then kill you, or like all these like very weird things.
And she seemed like excited about it. Like she didn't seem like grossed out or anything. It was very uncomfortable. Yeah.
It'd be a shame if something horrible had like, so we were talking about that. Sully mentions like people do kind of have conversations like that sometimes, but
yeah, I was saying context, it was internalized misogyny.
Is it internalized misogyny? But like the context of it is like that person, as far as the other knows, they kidnapped her and held her hostage, and something horrific could have happened. And she does what most women do and don't say anything because men are trash and they're going to get it thrown back in their face anyways, or accused. You know what I'm saying? So it's like her saying that to somebody, like, I don't think that would ever like fly today, but
no. Just the implication. And then I think right after that, they show like a clip from TV of him like having killed a bunch of people to escape. But she was there and knows that it's not true. So she's like finally questioning like her government, which is, like very few people within the system, which I want to mention also is so like during the Running Man, they have all like the kind of well-dressed people inside watching. And then you have all the like working class people outside, like gambling on who's going to get killed. And then you have also like the even richer people at like in like the bar they occasionally show. And I feel like it's these three different groups, like the super wealthy, the like middle class kind of people, and then like the working class people outside. And they definitely all equally believe that everything is. It's like they have no class consciousness.
Yeah, definitely. All the people outside also had a real greasy sheen to them. Like they were all filthy, wearing like patched up clothing and stuff. And we're
like the
there.
peasants
like,
and Monty Python.
Yeah.
Right.
We're already there. Like this movie got like a lot of things right, and I think it did it obviously on accident, or you have to put anti-communist spin on something that you want to get put out. So it's like this is what's hot right now. So this is the authoritarian USSR. Like this is what happened if it came.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, I think you're saying, Sully, is that the Richard Dawson, like his name is Damon Killian, which I feel like is like the perfect name. I know, just like it's a good name, like Killian, for his like show where they kill people. He like his like ability to like run the game show wasn't like different than like what he would just be doing as his regular job. So that's why I feel like it was so perfect. And even at one point, it's like calling someone down, like it felt like The Price is Right. We're like, oh, come on down. You're like the next contestant to pick who murders a bunch of people.
It did have that.
He was very charismatic, and like I definitely enjoyed his character more than I probably should. I thought he was like a great character.
Yeah, he was solid.
Parodying himself is a smart move, really. Like, especially if you can do it that well. He played evil, really, like just like callous evil, I guess. Like it wasn't even he wasn't personal about anything. He just wanted his show to do well, and he's like just heartless. Like it just in general was just.
So you're saying that's not evil?
It is evil, but I mean, it's just like a
little bit evil.
No, there's like a coldness to it, and that's like there's nothing less evil or more evil. I guess it's just these.
Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing.
Very, very calculating.
And so the first and then this is where he shoots Arnold Schwarzenegger down the awesome luge pipe, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and he gets sent to like this quadrant like thing, like the game show. Also, like it's only supposed to have been 3 hours long, and somehow like all of this happens in that short period of time, which I thought was funny. And actually, another note that I saw that I didn't believe this until I looked it up is the first Stalker was Sub-Zero, and that is how they based the Mortal Kombat character on this character.
Really?
That's how they got so it's supposed to be Tundra, and they changed it to Sub-Zero because some dude who was making the video game saw this movie. It's like Sub-Zero is better.
Sub-Zero is better actually than Tundra. I actually agree with that 100%.
Which it's like all these people are getting all this influence from this movie. They have TV shows, video games. Like this movie was like more influential, I think, than I realized.
Yeah. Especially since you said it was like a bomb at the box office too.
Right, but then it like yielded such like profitable enterprises after, and I think it did well like as a DVD, like as a culty kind of film. Yeah, and then they also made the Sub-Zero character, like I feel like it was extremely racist, like his like outfit and his like demeanor and him. I don't know. It was kind of funny that they made him a hockey player too. Like I don't really. It's kind of odd choice.
They introduced him with a gong.
Yes,
which I thought was like
he cuts it in half.
Yeah, I was like, is that okay? And then we did some sleuthing, and we're like, I you know what?
It was kind of based on like I think he was a wrestler or something. It was based on his persona.
Yeah, he was a right.
He was a wrestler or a boxer. I can't remember exactly. One of those.
He's a pro wrestler.
One of those types of sports.
Okay.
And he was Hawaiian, but he played his like character was Japanese. So like a lot of the wrestler, like they were all like kind of wrestlers or in something, because I was looking them up while we were watching, and I should have been paying more attention to the movie than looking up the actors, but that's what I like doing.
Well, he's been in a few other movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger too, which I saw like just accidentally going through. So it's one of those things, like they probably pair these people because they're big and strong, and that's just what they're going for.
That was like the archetype. That was the action archetype of the 80s, like 80s, early 90s. And then you start moving to the lean, neutral man, your Neos, in terms of like who becomes the hero after a certain point. Like there was emphasis on, we want the everyman, the person that you can picture yourself over. That's why they're normally the least animated characters, but like that wasn't always the case, like they're delivering one-liners that they rip your arm off or whatever that. And that should make a resurgence also. One-liners and practical effects. I want something made in the vein of early action.
Yeah, he is like, now he's playing Zero. That was one of my favorite one-liners. When he kills him, he's like, oh, now he's playing Zero.
I feel like because a lot of them are like professional wrestlers. I feel like if you were watching it during that time, they probably would have been recognizable and like, oh, hey, it's that guy.
Right.
I've seen him do this, like, because even the opera singer guy, it was also a wrestler. Like, they were all wrestlers.
Yep, I think, and Fireball was played by Jim Brown, who was like a football player too. So, they're Yeah, I think you're right. I think like at the time they all would have been much more so than to me.
It was like star-studded.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so and what I thought was like the turn in the movie is like when he kills Sub-Zero, and now like the crowd is like as if like their flag was just like burned in front of them, like God forbid like their stalker was killed, and
there were
it's
people
like
crying. Yeah. There's a sobbing in the audience over essentially a killer that they've grown to love. Watching is the Running Man weekly? I would have to be, right. Like you'd run out of people eventually.
It seems like a Friday night, like a prime time type of
thing. Exactly.
TGIF.
It also seemed like it'd be something people get like their whole family around to watch. One of the things I noticed was like that I one of the gags, I guess, was the climbing for dollars, where the dude's climbing the rope with the fists of cash and the dogs are underneath him. That is one I could absolutely see. Okay, so you replace dogs with, I don't know, like something where it looks something that's, robots, anything that's going to like get the people watching to watch this person fall off the rope. Like, yeah, I could totally see them making a reality show or a game show where somebody's like climbing a rope with hazards for money. I mean,
wasn't there like Wipeout
for money?
Like Wipeout.
Yeah. And people legitimately got injured on Wipeout. That's why it's not on anymore.
Wasn't there like a Netflix reboot, or did I just watch Wipeout on Netflix?
Walking like
I think it was like actually like
lava.
I think the floor is lava.
The floor is lava.
That's it. Which I don't know if people got injured, but it's like basically you're climbing around to like get something to.
Wipeout, I think, was actually people like all the contestants got a really rare like stomach virus from the water. Like the kind where like you shit for a year, like you literally just like your guts are loose. Yeah, they got like maybe not Ebola, but they got something really bad from Wipeout, and they're like, no more. Like we can't handle the lawsuits of the amount.
They like went back to the Oregon Trail just for that.
You have died of dysentery.
I just wanted to win $2,500 or whatever. It's extremely low. It's not the.
Then they had to spend it all at like.
I got to go to the chiropractor and get my back fixed from getting.
Yeah, they weren't giving them health care for their troubles. Well, you're
gonna be a star.
The way they like weave Amber back into the story is she like tries to go steal the like original tape for when Ben Richards had like supposedly killed a bunch of people, and they catch her. And they throw her down the little luge, and they send her in, and like somehow like she immediately is able to like catch up with them, even though it's like they're very loose on like the size of this arena, I suppose.
Yes, it's all very nebulous, like off-screen big.
Yeah,
and then here's a couple set pieces. I'm pretty for sure some of those places were just like the same spot from a different angle. Whereas like I'm pretty for sure they're just like recycling the ground, because I mean if you can do it, I mean that's the cool
like a
part
Disney
about film.
Cartoon.
Yeah, just recycling cells.
And forth, yeah. Well, and then the other funny thing I noticed was when they announced her, they like made up a bunch of like lies that she had like cheated on exams. She's like, she had sex with 2 to 3 men in a single year, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what this is supposed to be like the this is now your, I don't know. It was ridiculous. Like the gags, like you said, are just
right. Which is funny because the whole puritanical like that like communists have always been sort of sexually liberated, or not always, but like generally a lot of them are in terms of, because like certain things are patriarchy, and if you're doing communism right, it's intersectional. So you should be breaking down the patriarchy. Either way, so I lost my train of thought actually because I went off on like the two little side tangents.
That's okay. Well,
I laughed out loud when I heard that part. It's so good.
And then they bring in Buzzsaw, who's got the like, also like a wrestler type coming in there to like, use his gigantic chainsaw.
That dude's coked out.
Oh yeah,
Like
and
you could tell. Like I was on shit like for the movie.
And I don't remember what the line he says to him, like when he has like a funny like one liner every time he kills someone. He like, shoves the chainsaw right like between his legs.
Oh yeah, that is that guy. Yeah.
What did he say to him?
Um
I don't remember. I had it like on my notebook.
I was like laughing.
Oh, like you can't hack it. Is that something like that?
Yeah, something about hacking.
Yeah, something like that.
He castrated that dude. Like he straight up like that dude.
And then the guy was
from
just
the
like,
middle up.
yeah, like not screeching or, I
don't think
like,
I'd have the energy to scream either. Like that's.
It's weird how comical like they make
terror
all the like physical, like when they stab the guy like with the lawyer on the back. Like I like flinched when he did that, but it was played for like comedy. So all these like really violent acts were played like for comedic effect.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's like also just like the idea that all of this is like this sensationalizing like TV violence. Like they play that up like perfectly. Like that, I'm sure was intentional to be this like satirical aspect of reality TV, which you were talking about earlier. This is great. And then the dude comes in with the opera singer comes in with his like ridiculous car that was
Dynamo
with his, boxy car. And, I don't know why he needed to come in a car if he could like shoot electrical bolts at people. Like, what was the point of the car? Just like get out. And
it's just for the theatrics.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
It did have like all the little like blinking lights and stuff. Maybe it was like a charging pack for his electric gear. The fact that he like did it all in like underwear and like a electronic battle vest and helmet. Like it just
the thing looked like a Tesla, like a little like shitty ass electric.
It looked like the Cybertruck being driven in reverse. It's just like it's just sitting in the Cybertruck. Oh, it did.
Yeah,
that was.
And so well, the other thing that I forgot to mention too is like in this point, the other two guys, Weiss and
Laughlin,
they're trying to they weave back in the whole like we're the underground resistance and we have to get this computer code relay to break down the society, and so that like derails them a little bit, and that's where Amber like helps him like remember the code.
And the one win they give Amber. Oh no, actually she fucks up Dynamo also. Yep.
Yeah, nope, she kills him. Well, accidentally.
Yeah, she could have like not been in the movie and it really wouldn't have made much of a difference. Like that's how they kind of treat the one female character.
As long as somebody else got the code, they
yeah, and she had like that break. She's like, how am I supposed to remember these numbers?
Yeah. It was like an 7-digit number and then like another short code. And again, like you think these guys would like read the manual on like safe passwords. They're just dropping things around. And the other thing that I kept thinking about is that as like the tide is turning and he keeps killing more and more of he's killed now 3, Sub-Zero, Buzzsaw. I guess he hasn't killed Dynamo, right? He's like disabled in the game. And then he kills, Fireball. Like the crowd who was betting is now like, oh shit, we need to bet on this guy. And also the woman inside, like the old woman is like, that's one badass motherfucker.
Yeah. Yes. Always nice to see like a little old lady, like swearing.
I don't know if you noticed this, but when they started betting, like when the outside started betting on Arnold Schwarzenegger, you saw a couple cops slowly like weave their way through the crowd.
I did.
And it made me think like, oh, like they're getting rowdy. We need to basically like kill or disable
start breaking up the crowd.
Yeah, and I think they never really like go back to it later, which is unfortunate because I feel like that's the people who are now realizing that a single man can take down like a corporation, which is kind of like what this is, right? It's kind of like a white savior complex in a way.
Yeah, but really the resistance also, like he he's
Yeah,
not
I
an
get that.
island, he's a face, right? Which is
Okay.
bullshit, because again, he comes out of nowhere, like literally nowhere. He just helped some people escape and then goes about his way, gets captured again. The cops are really competent in this universe. Like it's odd how
Yeah, that's
easily
true.
they capture the two guys that just got their collars taken off, that were at a resistance safe house, but
How
they
did
didn't
they
get
catch
any
them?
of the other people, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
they got caught to be used as like fodder. And every time Ben and his friends would do well, they would change up the game. They would do something out of the ordinary, like bring in two stalkers at the same time instead of just the one. And they kidnapped Amber to, is like, now she's in on it, and now
And they use a deep fake to like fake him dying with what's his name? Jesse Ventura's character, Captain Freedom. Which is what's hilarious to me is that like the guy whose name is Captain Freedom doesn't actually do anything. They have to pretend that he's actually winning. It's a
yeah,
nice little metaphor.
it's like I'm out. It was weird seeing like the fact that he was actually like principled in his like warrior bullshit, because the dude literally jumped in bed with his oppressors, because I feel like it's implied that all the stalkers are like people who won enough of the game where they're like, hey, like, do you want a contract? Like how they do when they offer Ben his contract when he starts winning. So once they realize they can't cheat their way into victory, it becomes, hey, can we buy you? And once this we can't buy you is fucking kill him. And then that becomes like, let's cheat, make it look like we killed him, and then we'll just like send the military and the cops and like the militarized police force to get him.
I think he was afraid. I think that he thought he would just get killed like Captain Freedom, because he's killed 4 of these other people. To me, that was like, he wasn't being like principled. He doesn't actually want to do it. I think he was like, I don't want to die. I want to live this like nice life.
Oh, I thought it was because they made him wear all that like
Yeah,
armor,
I guess you're
and
right.
he's like, fuck it. But I mean, it could have just been cowardice, is because he did sell, like he sold himself out really by joining the oppressors for essentially what amounts to a figurehead position, being a commentator for the Running Man, which it's going to happen. We're going to have class traders. People are able to be bought. Think about how many people just like run into a comment section to tell you that you're wrong or evil or a bajillion trillion, the entire world population was murdered by Stalin, or whatever the line is. They're always like toxic, and they always come out in droves.
Yeah.
But there's people that'll defend the system.
Yeah, I mean the people who are just watching it from the studio, they've been convinced that this is what they have to do. Like I think that the Richard Dawson's character Killian at one point says, like, basically that they use the TV, like people are raised on TV. Like this is like in the final scene. He's basically saying like, we need TV. Like without it, like how do we teach our kids? Like, well, maybe you could educate them on actual, things. It's like this is. I felt that also felt very 80s, like TV as
bad.
like
rots the brain.
Yes, too much TV, and you're stupid.
The woman that requests, I believe, Sub-Zero. No, is it fire? One of the 2 old ladies that get to pick the stalker. That's Max. Is it Max? No, Charlie's mom. It's Charlie's mom from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh shit!
And she's still like she looks just as old to me.
She was
like
40.
Look, I'm not saying she looks like ancient or anything. I'm saying she looks.
It's like that Golden Girls effect.
Yes, he has not aged a day since, I guess, is the best way to say that without sounding like a pig. Not that aging is, there's anything wrong with aging.
Yeah,
before I put my foot in my mouth.
Well, so the like he's basically killed all of the the stalkers. He's now reunited with like the resistance fighters. And did you notice also like one of the younger resistance fighters was wearing kind of like a Cuban, I don't know what the name of that hat is. Like
Beret, the
beret, yes, that's the
red
word.
beret.
I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like it
like
was very much like, oh, these are like the commies, but they're too stupid. They need the military guy to like step forward and lead them because they're too green. I felt that was, again, I think it's like unintentional kind of thing, just because they needed, you said like they needed the face on their little revolution to go in and
yeah, and it's the same as like like the Hunger Games or is like here's the face of the thing, even though there are hundreds or thousands of people behind the scenes doing a bunch of the work. It's like we're gonna make you the leader out of no just chosen one kind of like vibe on it's like, oh, you should help us, and again fought the whole way against it until like both his friends died.
yeah.
And it's like if you had put in the effort, like if you had been with it the whole time, would they still be dead? Or like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you dip your toe in and then your friends die and it's like, oh, now I have to be serious about it. Definitely class traitor vibes from Arnold, but I mean, it was
Yeah, I mean, he does help them. Like at the end, he leads
he,
them through. They
there was
needed
a
someone with
there was
military
a nice
experience.
moment too. Sorry, I just interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, go ahead.
At the very end, there's a really nice moment of class solidarity. Um, the host had berated his security guard earlier about
Sven.
like Sven, yes, Sven, and he's like, "What, steroids make you deaf or something like that?" After he just told him to do something and he didn't do it as quickly as the master wanted, and uh, but he did do it. But then when the time comes and he's face to face with Ben and Sven shows up and you're like, oh, like one final mini boss or something, and dude's like, stop him, and the dude's like, sorry, I gotta go score some roids or something like that. And it's just like, oh my god. And then he just walks away. And I mean, there will eventually be like, I feel like there will be cops when the time comes that do side with the people, and not to say that I am for cops in
What?
any way possible.
What?
But I'm saying that after enough time of seeing like your neighbors and shit being like brutalized by like there's going to
That
be
doesn't
people
sound very
that
ACAB.
that lose their brainwashing. I do believe that. Like there's always deserters in war. There will be deserters on the reactionary side. There will be people that do cross, and those people will oftentimes be your most fervent support, the most down for the cause. Like if you can convert a conservative to the left, they are always the most down. They are the quickest to like pick stuff up. And it's because they want to atone for the sin of being a dirty reactionary.
Yeah. Cleanse themselves.
Yes, and good on them for wanting to do the work. And I mean, it's not always, but at least in my experience, I was extremely conservative, and now, well, I mean, I'm a communist. It's like there you go.
Well, that guy Sven, that actor, his actual name is Sven, and he's like a
Ooh.
stunt dude, and he was in, I think I looked it up. He was in like Conan, a Barbarian, and I was like Arnold, like again, like another, it's like the Arnold group assembled for
Yeah, a
him to do a
stable.
movie.
Like there's a stable of I work with these people on a regular basis.
Yeah, and so I mean, you alluded to them, and we alluded to the fact that now they've taken over the studio, and which is essentially, if you have the media apparatus, you basically control everything, because that's kind of like how they're disseminating all their propaganda, their Running Man, their everything. And he shoots Killian down the little luge after your little mentioning of Sven being like, no, I'm not going to help you, stop this. And people are all like flabbergasted, like the rich people in the bar, the people outside. And I feel like they're like cheering it on. Like they shoot him out the tube, he like blows up in the billboard, presumably dead, and all the groups are now cheering. I don't know if like I can does that like actually make sense? Like with all the like
Yeah,
rich people?
no, those oligarchs would be shitting their pants. Like
Yeah.
once they realized that the gravy train was over, that they've been, they're involved in all the propaganda as well. Like the host is hobnobbing with all those like fancy rich, the ultra elite, and they all God damn it, I keep losing my train of thought. Don't smoke weed. It's gone. I'm so sorry.
Well,
My
you're just saying
bad.
like they're basically like the rich people realize now they're not
yeah,
gonna.
they realize if they saw their like bestie, right? That's where I was going with it. If they saw their bestie get sent down the rocket luge, they would not be cheering. And at least a couple of those rich fucks knew that like half the stuff they put on TV is made with a computer.
Yeah.
There's no way the oligarchs of a society aren't in on
They probably designed it.
right, and
Like
then
they're the
paid
tech
and
people.
lobbied to make it the rule.
Yeah, I felt like, the movie is what it is. It's like it's a fun action movie that has like some revolutionary spirit. I feel like the ending is like kind of both good in that they like kill Killian, like the symbol of like, what's rotten about the country, but it doesn't really, it kind of then just like leaves you on like, okay, Arnold is just kind of like standing there. Presumably if they have like military helicopters that are going to kill civilians, they're probably surrounding this complex. I mean, it
They know
feels
where
like
you're at. You filmed it from the studio, like live. Like, yeah, definitely. The SWAT team is already out the door, ready to breach it. Like they're definitely dead.
Yeah, I mean, of course, again, it's a movie and it's ambiguous at the end. They're just kind of giving you the happy ending, and I get it. It just I wouldn't be a leftist movie podcast and not just the fact that like it's not satisfying at the same time. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Most movies like this don't ever actually solve anything. It's kind of like, oh, here's the presentation of a few people taking down like the evil oppressors.
Plus,
but
like
we don't know what
also,
we'll do.
Yeah, it also felt like, I don't know, because you see, like, since it's a TV show, you see TV shows light all the time, and everybody's like, oh no, and then everybody forgets about it in a couple weeks anyway. Like, so I don't know. To me, it felt like it was unreal. Like, it's a movie, so of course it's gonna be unrealistic, but like,
yeah,
people going up in arms over a TV show lying to them.
Right. And like the question is like how many people actually will believe it? Like they're obviously going to then propaganda releases to say that it was like fake. This is part of the show. It's all.
Yeah, and then like, what do you believe? On top of that, if you do essentially believe, right, that they've been making these fake narratives for you, you would never be able to believe your eyes, at least in terms of the media you consume from then on. So even if you believe in what the revolution is doing, it's like I can no longer trust media. And I feel like that creates like a generational like trauma to that too, where it's like anybody next generation is going to remember what their parents told them and before that and after and forever and always. But the Running Man, if you look at it in terms of like if you look at it as like an analogy for like capitalism, every promise that the Running Man makes is false, right? Even the three winners that are supposedly out on some beach somewhere are dead in a locker room. They just got. It has to be a set. Like it has to be like a closed off area for them to like blatantly leave the bodies with the dog tags and badges and stuff like in
why
the
do
open.
that?
Yeah, and they'd been there a while, so like nobody's been using this locker room.
Or they've just been stepping over the bodies.
Yeah,
like,
excuse me, buddy. Out of my way.
But so the prizes, there are no prizes. You either assimilate and be like you make it far enough, they offer you a job and you take it, or don't and die. And that's probably what happened. These people either made it far enough that it's like, hey, do you want to be on the show? And then when they're like, nah, we want our pardon or our vacation or whatever it is. The prizes too were like One was like trial by jury. One was suspended sentence, and then full pardon were the three that they mentioned, and then they were like other prizes. But all those prizes like are what are supposedly like promised to us through like, you know, habeas corpus, the Constitution, like all that stuff, right? Like the trial by jury and all that. And we don't have that now. Like people don't get a jury of their peers. That doesn't happen. You get a very homogenized group because only that group qualifies to be on your jury. Either way, I'm getting into the weeds of like how our judicial system works. But either way, the point is that like none of those things were ever on the table. They were just a stick that was like disguised as a carrot because you're going to either die or join them, which is capitalism in a nutshell. Is join us or die. I know better than that, but that is the vibe that you get, right? It's like either work or starve, work or be homeless. And I'm not opposed to labor for things. That's not what I'm saying, but you know, it shouldn't be impossible for 90% of the population, which I feel is exactly the future that the Running Man predicted. They just got the form of government incorrect. Because again, like there are parallels for almost everything in this movie that like currently happen. I really like the AI. Like I like the whole very timely that we watched this, and I'm, you know, this has been the year of deep fakes and voice modulation and stuff like that, where you can just, there's people out there that can make like really good fake stuff, like that person that fixed Princess Leia, the CG that they did of Princess Leia to make her look younger. Somebody on YouTube within days of the movie coming out made it look non-uncanny valley, like it didn't have that uncanny valley vibe that
realistic.
Yeah,
non-uncanny valley.
Sorry, yes. They made it look more realistic with just a couple days because that person is passionate about what they're doing, whereas a company that is being paid a contract to do something because Disney wants it,
they cut corners because no one will care.
Exactly. It's like we're too big. Like this is too big.
I read an article about that. It's because they don't give them enough time. They don't give them enough time or budget to do it, so they're doing as best they can with what they're given.
Yeah, they want to rush it out.
It's by frame. Like you do the number of frames. So like if you have 100 frames in your movie that needs CG, you do it by the frame, but one frame could have like some sparkles, and then the other frame could have like a dragon like popping out of a fucking mountain like Smog. Like, you know what I mean? Like the difference in work is huge, but they count at the same, like they do it at the same rate. Which is one of the things that like it's sort of related to the writer's strike that's going on right now. Like that's where I heard about it, is tangentially through like information about that. And how it was essentially how corporations fuck over their creative staff. Well, everybody, all their employees, because that's what capitalism does.
Yeah. I was trying to mention there's a couple other really like funny little notes. I can't find them. There's one really good one. I can't find it. Anyway. Oh well. What was I going to ask? Oh, I don't know. Are there any little notes you put down that you didn't get to mention, or I don't know, thoughts? I mean,
I do actually have some more about the misogyny in the movie, but I didn't want to make it all about. So real quick, I just explain want to point out that like as soon as she got the chance, so they play it like when she like snitches on him, you're supposed to feel bad for him. That she's like, oh my God, this crazy motherfucker has just kidnapped me. You're supposed to feel bad for him. It plays into the trope that like women are shifty. They always have like, they're going to betray you. Hoes be trifling, I guess, is the vernacular that like young people use. It's that trope, right? Like yep. A woman is always going to backstab you. I mean, that alone like was jumped out at me a lot. Plus like the trauma bonding. Yeah. I honestly didn't know her name until like the second viewing.
Yeah, they like she's like a sub character that's there because they needed like a final scene where there's like a little love connection. You know, it's not, they could have just been another dude. It didn't, you know, it didn't have to be that. And actually, I want to mention one other thing. Ben mentions that he's going to see his brother, who he thought was going to be living in that house, who's clearly like wealthy. So not only is he a cop, he's also like connected in some sense too. And where is that dude when he like, I don't know.
I think they implied that he got disappeared.
Yeah, they say he was like a
And-
dissident or something.
Right, that's true.
Which, if I'm sure, if you're not high up enough, they you know, they can fake whatever. They probably made another video of him like helping his brother plan the massacre or something.
Yeah, they make, yeah.
But I did enjoy the movie, and I saw a lot of America there, and I was like, God bless America.
It's a little bit on the nose, but also through the lens of one-liners and Arnold Schwarzenegger just essentially stealing the show. Although I think you're right. I think that Richard Dawson was like pretty peak. Like the two of them basically are like the two people you're watching this movie.
Definitely.
It's
And
just like,
they had some chemistry, whereas I don't feel like Amber and Ben
Yeah.
had any. Like everything felt like really forced in terms of like them actually getting along. I did believe them when they were like sniping at each other and stuff, but like when they were like actually like, yeah, and I mean, what, like 3 lines that he's nice to her in the entire film. Like they all of them kind of like rag on her the whole time. And then yeah, like he's just like nice to her a couple of times, and then she like ends up with him. Like there's something to be said there, and I don't know what it is, but
yeah,
It's very typical for like the misogyny of the 80s in those types of movies. Like
definitely,
yeah.
HR wasn't a thing. Nobody had human resources.
No, I mean this is. I mean, look at any Arnold movie, and this is very, or you know, even I feel like up until like the early '90s or so, like any. Well, I mean, it still happens now, but like more prevalent at this time of just women as just like they're just in there to be a character to fit something as opposed to actually having a real character.
A prop. They take these female characters and make them props where they have zero agency. I can't remember the name of the test where it would be 2 women talking about something that's not a man, and they both have names.
Yeah, 2 women, 2 named characters that are women, and they talk about a man.
They don't talk about a man.
Yeah,
they talk about anything.
They don't
but
talk
a man.
about. Sorry, I was looking at the name.
The Bechdel test. Is that what you just said?
Yes, and like the two women interaction in the whole thing is not only them talking about Arnold, but talking about like a grotesque like sex act. Like,
I don't even think the other female character had a name. I don't know.
No, I don't. It was probably like TV studio.
The
lady.
only women who had the name were the old ladies.
I'm looking at it. Was there someone named Brenda? Could that be her?
That could.
There aren't that many. It's not like a big cast. I don't know. I can't tell. Brenda is just someone in it. I can't tell by the picture if it's her.
It was a lot of extras, like in terms of casting.
Yeah.
Like there was the stable of the act. Oh, there was the one guy. So real quick, I just want to point out that the guy that was like the production dude plays the same character in Wayne's World. Like not the same like by name, but he's the same exact thing in Wayne's World.
Oh, you're right. You're talking about Kurt Fuller.
Yeah,
that's the actor. Yeah, he's like he's like pretty funny as like a.
He's definitely
in his little
like,
roles.
I remember he was like real big when I was a kid. Like he was one of those like that guy actors. You know, it's like, oh, it's that dude.
He was in one of the Ghostbusters, I think. The second one, maybe. I think
that sounds right. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right though. He was in like I think I just pulled him up. He has 209 credits. That's a lot.
Yeah, character actors, they get a lot of work, especially if you're willing to just jump around to like a bunch of different projects. Like, boom, have a like Danny Trejo big. That guy will do anything. I've considered filming a movie and just like save up the $30,000 it would take to get Danny Trejo in it. Danny Trejo does not turn down work.
Go check his cameo.
Ooh, that's a good idea. And then I don't have to actually like write anything. But I mean, I would be like pretty happy to have Danny Trejo say what I wrote down. Oh shit. Evan, are you Evan?
It's like slow motion.
Yeah, are you there, Evan? Maybe he can't hear us. Oh. Refresh probably.
Well, I think he would have had to end it to get out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're killing it.
Well, I don't know if we're... So...
Don't we have to be in here for it to record?
I don't know. Have I ever left during one of our... No, because you're also like an admin when we record. Near the end there, my cough got real bad.
We're still like live.
Are we?
Where are we live to? Can you tell?
YouTube.
Are we like... I don't know. Like, I don't know.
This is now the Sully Show. Hello, everybody.
Dang, we stole this podcast. Just hijacked.
We literally stole this podcast.
We stole your podcast. Oh,
I don't know what my internet just like. I think my internet went out for a second there and lost everything.
You were like slow motion for a bit.
I know that was like I had a full screen and then it did it. Yeah. So I guess actually a perfect opportunity, unless you have more to say, you should tell us about your podcast, Dang We Stole the Podcast, before we close the book on Running Man.
Give us the description.
What was the description? Oh, that it's a podcast riddled with ADHD. We just do whatever. Like right now we're doing like a lot of sketch stuff.
Yeah, scripted content.
Oh, nice.
It's like leftist absurdist satire, a lot of parody. We parody like old media, at least currently. Right now we're working on one about the evening news or the morning news and the evening news, how like one is there to like pacify you with vapid nonsense and the other one's there to terrify you. So it's like, perfect. Here's the latest meme, and then it's like your kids are getting cancer from eating Tide Pods, or like as an example. But yeah, and we just some of our shows we just talk about like a specific subject, but it's all through like the leftist lens. We're also like big into pop culture, so a lot like what you do, but we talk about more like broad. In terms of like we talked about D&D and we've talked about certain movies, comic books. Nice. We're currently working on a series called Capitalism Destroys Everything, and it's going to be a series of different things that like people enjoy. Like our first one's going to be on fandoms. I got to get back to writing that, cashing a lot or writing a lot of checks right now. Writing a lot of checks.
Yeah, you're like,
but there's already content, so like if this doesn't materialize, you feel free to check us out. We're on YouTube. Then we stole this podcast on TikTok. I'm at the Lemony Fresh Pine on TikTok and Lemony Fresh Pine everywhere else because
I don't do anything else.
I get banned a lot. So all the other socials are good though. I also signed up for the Threads or whatever today. So that's a new thing that I'm doing. We're both on there as well as our podcast. So yeah, check us out.
Perfect.
Yeah, I did not do a good job of like hyping anybody up, but it's good. I promise.
It's an amazing podcast.
No. Yeah. And I'll link to all those little things in the down below section or the whatever the section is,
thing,
the description thing where you get details and such. But Sully and Lemony, it's been great talking about the Running Man. Thank you both
Hell yeah.
for joining. It's been a lot of fun.
We should do it again soon. I'm down to watch
If you do
anything
a
on that
Jurassic
list.
Park, I want to be part of Jurassic Park. I've seen that movie a million times. My kids are obsessed with it.
I can't believe that wasn't on my actual list, but I've seen it again countless times.
Yeah.
Well, we will do Jurassic Park.
I would. I dibs on. Can I still be your business partner when you do that? I just want to. Yeah, like I want in on that. I want to talk about dinosaurs.
Yes, and capitalism ruining more.
Yes,
stuff.
it's like such an anti-capitalist movie. Like, yeah,
I love that. The book even more. I don't know if you.
Yeah,
I read it when I was.
I did read it. Yeah,
it's. More...
I actually like the movie more than I like the book. It's like one of those rare instances.
I think I would agree with that one. But yeah, we will be bringing you Jurassic Park in the future to Left of the Projector.
Let's do that.
And we will and you can find this podcast on all the same places, the Left of the Projector pod on Instagram and TikTok and Threads, apparently, because we have to do everything.
Yeah,
can't be left behind.
Fuck Mark Zuckerberg though. Like just
another billionaire with another
last jab in. Yeah.
Yes. Fuck them all. All right, everyone. Well, we will catch you next week on Left of the Projector, and go check out Dang We Stole This Podcast.
Bye.
Until next time.